Welcome. This is Elvis Venter with the Gruber Power Hour, episode 24. Again, I'm Elvis Venter with Gruber Power, one of the account managers. And to my right, I have none other than the one and only.
Oh, you want me to introduce myself?
I'm going to let you introduce yourself this time.
I'm Pete Gruber, and thank you for joining our weekly Power Hour. And Claude is still in Egypt. What is he doing? Climbing the pyramids or something?
Yeah, I don't think they let you. But if anyone's going to try to get a hold with, if anyone's going to try to get away with it, it'll be Claude.
I think I picture him on the Nile.
Yeah.
And there are these servants that are fanning him as he's going down the Nile.
He's so bougie. But you are correct. I was watching him a little bit. He had a hotel next to the Nile.
Oh, really?
So he just traveled back in time thousands of years on what he's doing. So that's really fascinating.
Totally.
So yeah, to Claude, thank you. I hope you're watching. Hope you're having a safe trip. We have great news is, like last week, I wanted to announce that we hit over 1,000 subscribers. Mm-hmm. And, that's also part of your vision of you starting this podcast. From episode 1, we're all the way to episode 24. We're longer than some big productions out here than the NBC's or CBS shows. So that's really encouraging. We're at about 1,004.
40.
40. Mm-hmm. 1,040. Oh, wow. That's fantastic. So, very excited, very happy, very grateful where we've come. I'm going to put you on the spot. But again, you are Pete Gruber and you're the CEO. And before anything, why don't you just, give us a little bit more, because you do jump on our podcast, but you're so heavily involved on this other stuff and on the Tesla side that I think it's also really important for let's say the 40 new people. Mm-hmm. And the more, just to get an idea too, kind of your idea, the 40 years that you've been, revolutionizing and really spearheading Gruber and many different aspects of it. So why don't you just go into that before we really get into the nitty gritty of the show today?
Sure. In fact, one of the things we're going to talk about on the show today is our Go Green efforts and our commitment and our culture to sustainable energy usage. And the example that I'm going to give later on is that the most recent example is a Gruber Motor Company, which is electric vehicles, getting fossil fuel burners off the road. And we actually started the Go Green movement with Gruber Power Services, and I'm going to demonstrate that here shortly.
I'm going to ask you a question. How long has the motor side been operating officially on its own?
2014.
Okay. Because I was aware of it, and when I was at another company, so it's been 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years, and it was actually an outcropping of a realization that what's in these electric vehicles, the Teslas, I had a Tesla Roadster, is identical to what you guys work on in critical power. Mm-hmm. The 3-phase inverter with a DC plant, and the only difference is what it powers.
Did you have an aha moment, like in bed one day and you're just staring at the ceiling and you're like, I want to do Teslas. I want to do the lithium ions. Like, where did it really jump to? Because I've never asked you. This is a first for me. I've never, I've wondered where did the motivation, where the inspiration came through.
Well, I'm embarrassed to say that there was a paradigm shift that occurred. And, that's when you suddenly come to a realization. But it took me 6 to 9 months to figure that out. I got a Tesla Roadster because my wife and I were driving Priuses.
Okay.
And, they're kind of cool, but you can't go too far on electric motor. It's like under 40 miles an hour, and you go about a mile, and then you're out of juice, and you're back to internal combustion engine, right? So I've eventually got a Tesla Roadster going 100% BEV, as they call it, battery electric vehicle. And it was my daily driver. I drove it for 6 to 9 months, and one day, I'm taking my lunch pail out of the trunk, and one of the field engineers, your guys, comes by, looks at the black box inside my trunk, said, "What is that?" I said, "It's a 3-phase inverter." He says, "We repair those." And that was the paradigm shift. I suddenly realized he's absolutely right. Why aren't we repairing these?
So that was the embarrassment. You already were in that world of Gruber 30 plus years, and at 30 years probably. And then one of the FE says, well, and that's happened to me many times too, where I'm talking to a customer and I'm like, wait, I just forgot to tell them something that I've known for 6 months, or sometimes just kind of in the back of the old file cabinet in my brain.
Right.
And it just awoke in you.
It clicks, yeah.
It
it's
clicks.
Strange how that works. But So anyway, within a couple of months, we had a tech manager that was actually working in critical power, and I challenged him, since he was advertising on Craigslist that he can repair Tesla Roadsters, which is very rare, by the way. Very few people can do that. So I said, see if you can find a Roadster customer, because I think we can fix these. Well, he did. It came down from the Bay Area. He was facing a $10,000 power electronics replacement, which is the three-phase inverter. We fixed it for $2,300.
Wow.
And the word got out quickly that there's an alternative to Tesla's $10,000 replacement fix. So it was remarkable because so many similarities existed with Tesla and the Tesla products in that, in the independent power space that we're in, no manufacturer is going to share documentation with us. We're not going to get schematics. We're not going to get any kind of tech support from them. So we learned over 40 years that in order to be successful in critical power, you have to reverse engineer and you have to develop your own documentation and schematics and test procedures and all that. Well, Tesla initially was the same way. They had no clue who we were and where we were coming from and how we were able to repair this stuff. But they didn't realize that we had spent decades perfecting the craft of reverse engineering critical power. We did the same thing to their products and to their electronics and became rapidly, successful and relevant in that world. So today, we are the premier Tesla Roadster repair organization on the planet, and we keep on getting pushed into the other platforms, Model S, X, Y, 3. But we're so busy with Roadsters at this point, it's difficult for us to accommodate the other cars. But to answer your question, that's how we got into electric vehicles. And again, it's consistent with our Go Green effort.
Great. So now we can segue into, Gruber started and the motor side. So yeah, why don't we jump into what you have prepared?
So one odd thing at the Gruber companies is when you go to get your printer paper, all right, something that you've printed, typically the back has nothing to do with the front. It's because we believe in recycling paper to save trees on this planet. Why print on only one side and throw it away? So we always get asked about that strange phenomena. Why do we recycle paper? Well, it doesn't stop there. We began refurbishing Symetra APC batteries about 30 years ago. And back then it was single-phase Symetra type batteries called Cybats. They come in a white plastic clamshell arrangement. And inside that modular battery, which you can literally, like a drawer, pull in and out, has a plug on the back. They used to call it hot swappable. What do they call it now?
Live swappable, plug and play.
Okay, so
it's within those terminologies. I was just told, and I have to confirm this, but from one of our very experienced account managers, that now they're calling it live swappable instead of hot swappable, so they know it's a live situation in a live scenario. So I'm told plug and play is still safe to say, but live swappable is
All right, so we'll go live swappable. So what was happening back then was, and this was like 30 years ago, as these batteries expired, and the life of those battery packs, since they have little 12-volt, 7-amp-hour batteries in them, could be as short as 2 years, 3 years maybe, but not much more than that. And what would happen is, as these packs went bad, they would go in landfills. And of course, you now have lead acid batteries. I mean, it's an AGM, absorbent glass mat battery, but it still has sulfuric acid in it, and it's got lead in it. None of these things are friendly to Earth, right?
Nope.
Well, we figured out that you could actually open the clamshell, take out the 10 defective batteries, and repopulate it with brand new 12-7 batteries. And when you did that, not only did you now engage in planet-friendly initiatives, but you also saved the customer some money because they didn't have to replace the clamshell, the connector, and all the rest of that.
Correct.
The other thing that the customers benefited from was, since we were doing high volume by that time in these 12-7 batteries, our vegetables were always fresh. When you bought them from the manufacturers, they would assemble these Cybats, put them in inventory, and they'd sit on a shelf somewhere. And they were too small to have trickle charging type systems where they kept them on life support. So the customer got fresh batteries at a reduced cost. And that really was one of our first earth-friendly initiatives. Hey, guys, if we can pop up a picture, it's exclamation. Yeah, there we go. He's already there. Now, when you shift a culture within a company, it's kind of like steering an oil tanker on the ocean. It's not overnight. You don't do a quick 90-degree turn, right?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
All right.
But I'm not driving an oil tanker. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was constant reminders with our staff to nudge a culture in a different direction. And the Go Green culture was definitely something it took a while to ingrain, but once it was ingrained, we actually expanded from that. So let's see. So we're restoring now these battery packs, right? From there, we then decided, you know what, why stop with battery packs? When a component UPS reaches end of life, or the customer bought a 100 kVA Liebert UPS, and what I mean by component UPS, it's not scalable. That 100 kV is all you're ever going to get out of that box unless you completely redesign it, and now you might as well buy a new one because it's way too expensive.
Correct.
Different transformer, circuit boards, all that.
The blueprint, the footprint, it's a big footprint.
Right. So as these UPSs, these component UPSs were being retired, either end of life or because they had outgrown them, we were buying used UPSs initially for parts and then realized, just like used cars, you can put these things back into play, but you have to refurbish them. So that was the next level of refurbishing that we did. And our refurbishing includes new batteries, of course, right? Even if they were just replaced 6 months ago, we would put new batteries into these UPSs.
The connectors, the cabling.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. All the capacitors were replaced. Now let's talk about that for a moment. In a UPS, you have some wear items, and it's not just batteries. People forget that. You also have electrolytic capacitors that will age, dry up, and in severe cases, they will actually catch fire. Mm-hmm. Because they get resistive. You've got high current, high voltages operating on those caps. They get hot, and eventually they decide that they're going to go into thermal runaway. So we would change all of the electrolytic capacitors. We would do cosmetic improvements. You know, when that thing got shipped to us, well, maybe it got scuffed on the way over in the truck or on the pallet, and a forklift might have run into it or whatever happened, right? So we have a paint and body shop here, well before Gruber Motor Company. And what we would do is refurbish and recondition these UPS cabinets with the original, paint colors and all that. Then we would do preventive maintenance. That would be updated and any repairs necessary. Finally, the customer may want different options or additional options, whether that's an automatic transfer switch, want to combine it with a generator, they want additional battery cabinets. So we ended up beginning to refurbish not only battery packs, but also the entire UPS system. Now, that did a couple of things. We got another image here, guys. Let's do the 2 IMO image.
Another very important piece to the refurbished is people come to refurbished because of the budget, the turnaround time. Lead times are a lot quicker for refurbished.
Yeah.
Another very important factor that I think it's kind of the biggest sweet deal is the warranty. Because when you get something brand new, Amazon, anywhere else, they say, do you want to do a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year? They add these warranties. So, you would think at times, even when you buy like a used car, well, you don't really, it's a used car, come off the lot auction, just, take it. What I do really appreciate, and in the refurbished world, and Gruber does this very well, is we offer the 1 year. We offer a certain options of, we can, cover your equipment, your battery module, your power module for 1 year. And that's already the industry standard for OEM. So it's great that we can rise to that same level and to the occasion of, hey, well, here's another thing that makes us as good as OEM and unique and available to take care of the customer, and with a way more less absorbed cost, where you feel like, oh, I got to pay this much. So that's very important, is the coverage. Everyone, when you go buy something somewhere, don't just, well, how long is this covered? You don't want to buy anything and not know that it's not supported. So it's very important and is very great, encouraging to see that we do that. We do that very well.
You know, you're absolutely right. We had to be able to match the warranty from the manufacturer for a new piece of equipment to make this type of purchase attractive.
You have to.
But you know, we went a step further. We're in the service contract business. And what we would do with used equipment oftentimes is not only match the manufacturer's warranty periods, but then we would call a service contract extended warranty.
And now you cover the unit, which is the biggest step further I've met, and I'll tell you why. I know a number of competitors, customers, vendors that do one or the other. They supply equipment, but they don't do the service side. They're a service company, but they don't support the equipment. So we're that group now that's come together where we say, here, we can provide you a unit, we can provide batteries. Guess what? The parts, the batteries, the power modules that is going inside this UPS, we can cover and support your current UPS. Or the UPS we provide, we can be that all-in-one business and, you know, that one-stop shop where now we sell you the unit, we back up the unit, and we support it for a year. I just did that for a fantastic customer in LA where we sold him. It was a new construction high rise, and he wanted the unit, he wanted it installed, he wanted to cover it for a year. So we were able to provide that where I didn't have to send him somewhere else. I didn't have to refer him or get another partner involved, which that's what Gruber does very well. I did not have that option in certain experiences back in the day.
You know, I can only imagine when a UPS OEM, original equipment manufacturer, is competing with us, and they are offering a new piece of equipment, right? Well, here comes Gruber. Well, they're going to match the warranty. And then the customer might say, yeah, but it's still refurbished. You know, it's not quite new like ours. And then they would say, well, you know what? Your warranty is 1 year. Their warranty is 3 years.
Yes.
All we did was put a 2-year service contract.
Correct.
on it. Again, being innovators and being marketing people, those are the kind of strategies that we would oftentimes use to distinguish ourselves and make the value of our product even better than those brand new pieces of equipment.
And we offer both. When I have a customer that's very adamant, says, I only need new, said, okay, we have that great relationship and partnership with OEM, and we can offer brand new with the same concept. And, you know, we're that extra middle person where we can take care of it for you. So we can do all the dirty work in reaching out to the OEM, and the customer's like, I don't know what I need to do. Okay, well, we'll take care of it and we'll provide new. I've done that many times where your main approach is new. We'll take care of it for you. And then I've had a customer call me and said, hey, I've already shopped new, and I want to come to you because here are my reasons why I want to go with you, Refurbished, even though I don't like sometimes the word refurbished because we still have brand new parts in it. We have brand new caps. We can have brand new fans. We have brand new batteries inside a battery module where it's just a metal case. We replace the board. We replace the most important factors in that. So even when I hear refurbished, it's like, well, look, that's not the entire story to it. So I do really like that we can offer that. And I've had a customer and he said, oh, I'm also coming to you because I already checked the new one. I don't have 9 months to wait. Yeah. Like, oh, well, we have 2-3 weeks and we'll take care of it for you. And they love. Lead time's another key component. Huge, which we do.
There was a time when the OEMs might be backed up for months.
Years.
Supply chain problems, whatever it is. We have refurbished equipment in stock. Not only do we have used equipment that can be quickly refurbished, but we also refurbish a bunch of equipment, wrap it up, and put it into inventory.
Exactly.
Ready to go. We've got a good question here. Karen Macareno Perez says, Mr. Gruber, how do you keep yourself competitive regarding pricing against multiple other vendors? Well, when the comparison is between new equipment and refurbished equipment, we have no competition. There's no way that the OEMs, the UPS OEMs, can compete with us. Now, I would have thought, 20, 30 years ago when we first started doing this, that the OEMs would quickly figure out in order to keep market share, they're going to have to refurbish as well. They're going to have to offer both types of equipment, but none of them ever did. which, you know, created a big advantage for us.
Yes. And another thing that we do is we support equipment for a longer amount of time that the vendors don't. So we've had UPSs out there for 20, 30 years, where usually after a 10-year span, an OEM says, oh, look, we have a new unit for you. Why don't you take this? It's that upsell. And look, we're right?
Here's how they phrase it. They'll say, you know what? Your unit now is 10 years old and it's going end of life.
Mm-hmm.
We'll support it for another year. After that, there will be no parts available, and we will no longer service your equipment or give you a service agreement. We'll do time and materials and gouge your eyes out, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah. But yes, you're right. We are able to maintain legacy equipment much longer than the OEMs because we buy used equipment, we capture the parts, we test and certify the parts. And so for us, we keep an inventory of legacy parts that allows us to continue to keep equipment
Don't
running.
open up that can of worms of parts, legacy parts, because you know that's my wheelhouse.
It is.
It's my bread and butter.
He's very
I
good
love
at
it.
By the way, yes.
It's something I'm so familiar with, and we've been able to take care of customers where they're not like, oh my gosh, it's 12 years old. I don't know what to do because I was told by this. It's also that effect of when you have something on your laptop say, oh, your antivirus is expiring. I'm so afraid. Well, if you even look at OEMs, you know what they'll do? Mm-hmm. Like you said, they'll do a 10-year on the UPS. But then if you look at, they'll support the UPS for 10, 15 years additional at times. Mm-hmm. They'll do that even with power modules and battery modules, especially power modules, static switches. Let's say the end of life of the UPS is 10 years. Well, the end of life on the service is an additional 10 because they could still handle it. They still have inventory for that UPS. Power modules, battery modules, they might have an updated power module, but it's the same or compatible or just a little bit more up to date. So they don't take themselves out of that as much. We're the ones that feel the need and jump in and say, hey, look, we can really take care of that. And another thing to answer your question, another reason that sets apart us from the vendors is people like Elvis. People like
that's right.
Justin.
Flawless account managers, yes.
Flawless, a little bit of a loose term. I appreciate that. But it's also a variety of us that we're always open to. And we work hand in hand with OEM. We constantly grow within the Gruber family, within the, even our parts. Our parts are just... Man, it's like I'm talking about my third child that I don't have when it goes into parts. What we have an illustrious supply for parts, legacy. Claude likes to call it antique. I really like the legacy and the refurbished and renewed. It goes a long way. And we've talked about this on 1 to 2 episodes of the longevity of those parts. You were saying about capacitors, the 7 to 8 years. Well, PCB boards, do you know how long they last? This is the question for you, Pete. Let's see if you've been paying attention. PCB boards.
Yeah.
How long?
I would say indefinitely, since there are no wear components on it other than the components themselves.
Okay.
But the PC board material is virtually indefinite.
Correct. But they still have a year on it. 40 years.
40 years, is that
40
really?
years is how long they'll last. I mean, that is so amazing.
Is it because of wear or is it obsolescence?
It's because of wear. It's because we got to remember, too, there are pieces like little fuses. There's little...
well, you're talking about components on them.
The components on the part.
Yeah.
On the board. The board itself, that material is, like you said, indefinite and can last. But we have boards that are 40, 50 years
old
and can work.
Yeah.
It's not only about old, they can operate for 40 to 50 years, which is so great because how many people feel good when they say, oh, you see my car over there? Yeah, I have 150,000 miles and it runs like it's mile 10. So we have that same approach with our parts. Our PCB boards, they can last that long because of the components on top. Yeah. And there are some things on top that, with the soldering and that we have in our depot repair. Lenny and those specialists know how to maintain them. Mm-hmm. But that's another great thing that gives us that edge where OEM don't really care. They don't sell you a board.
So, what we run into in Gruber Motor Company regarding boards and electronics that you just mentioned is the components on the boards sometimes go into obsolescence. Chips, for example, PIC chips, LSI chips, even power transistors like this little guy right here.
Okay.
We're hard-pressed to find this little IGBT these days. The fundamental reason is the technology's improved. It's in the same case. It would solder onto the board the same way, but the performance characteristics are different. So if you have a finite board, a finite layout with components that is no longer in production, you're in trouble when the manufacturer decides to improve the part, increase its performance, but you can't use it because none of your bias resistors are going to work with it.
Exactly. That's the other thing is they'll update something, but then it's not compatible with the existing surroundings.
Yeah.
Very important. And that's something we're very aware of and conscious here, that we're like, we have this available. Mm-hmm. We have our parts. And we're always looking. I like that too, is like, as an account manager, I just don't have to provide for my customer in the selling point, but it's like, hey, we're here to help. Oh, you have a UPS that's ready to go. Hey, how many times have you done these great shorts of, look at us taking a UPS apart and salvaging the legacy parts on it.
Right.
So correct. It is very exciting to know that we do many different levels.
Now, let me take our audience back into time here a bit. We've got a comment from Kim Estrie. Good morning, Gruber. Well, thanks for joining us. By the way, any of you that are joining us, feel free to tell us where you're coming in from. The audience often likes to see that this is a global podcast.
Correct.
In some of our podcasts, we've got all various countries coming in. It must be the middle of the night for some of them, but yeah, we appreciate you people joining us, you folks joining us. So getting back to how things changed. Back in the day, you were lucky if you got a UPS line. In other words, Liebert, Emerson, PowerWare, APC, and they used to go to market through manufacturers' reps, and it was the manufacturers' reps' job to set up limited distribution because they didn't want to oversaturate their market. They felt that in order to get loyalty from their distributors, they had to limit competition. So when we first started, it was very difficult because we were small to get any UPS line at all. Wow. We ended up getting Deltec initially, which was a 3-phase UPS.
Deltec.
In San Diego, which went bankrupt, by the way. They're now long gone. And the first company that really gave us the time of day and supported us was Best Power Technology.
Best, okay.
Yes.
Okay, that one I'm aware of.
The reason was they didn't follow the mold. They broke the mold. They didn't go through reps. They felt that a performance-based system was far more equitable. In other words, they gave the best discounts to their highest volume resellers, and they didn't call them distributors. So if you got your volume up to a certain point, you could end up with up to a 35% discount. Everybody started 15%, right?
Wow.
That's how they gained loyalty. Well, it wasn't only Best Power Technology that helped us become very successful in this field, but it was also the fact that we were no longer now married to a particular brand. And there's a problem with that. If you're a Liebert rep and you've got customers, one shoe size fits all. That's BS.
Yeah.
There are different types of
this
UPS
thing turned into a rant. He went with the B. Oh, right, let's go. Come on, Pete. Wake him up.
Hear the rest of it,
wake
right?
him up. Let's wake up these people today.
You've got small UPS vendors like Triplite, for example. That they made much better product than this gigantic Liebert company that made 500, 750 kVA UPSs and was dabbling with little UPSs and had no idea how to do it, right? So to be agnostic in the UPS world was a much better deal for the customer.
Correct.
Because it no longer, one size fits all. Well, what that allowed us to do by going into the refurbishing business, we now had all the brands available. It didn't matter. Liebert, PowerWare, APC.
We were a one-stop
Exactly.
shop.
Small UPSs, mid-size UPSs. Initially when APC started, they were a mid-size UPS with their single-phase Symetra.
In SmartUps.
Best Power Technology was also a mid-size single-phase UPS vendor. The big UPSs were, Liebert and
Eaton.
Exide at the time, right? They call themselves Exide.
Exide.
Yeah.
I remember Exide.
And Emerson, of course.
Emerson was a big one.
So that opened up a whole new world for us.
Chloride.
Yeah. Jackie Svoboda is saying, Elvis is in the building.
Yes, I am. The one and only.
Kim Estrie adds, would you say that Gruber has a good amount of these types of parts, old technology, on hand for the customers? Well, you answer that.
I'm just chipping at the bit, however you want to call it, like chomping. Yes, we do, because that is where I come through, and that's what I've learned. We have such a large inventory, and we're actually working on now on complete updating where it's going to be in the thousands because of the parts we have.
I hope you understand why I get so annoyed when the operations people go into the parts room and say, we haven't sold that in 8 years. We're going to scrap that. You never know when that customer is going to come along. I'm a pack rat by nature.
Yes, you're a neat hoarder. Yeah. You're organized in it. So I agree on that. Is like, I think there needs to be a balance of certain things. Okay, they don't even make them. Like, for example, I agree with you, Pete, on if we have a certain UPS that the parts are still being utilized and in circulation, we should keep. But to that same point of like 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐞 or chloride, those are not even operational. They're not even working anymore. People are not using those UPSs. They've gone to something else where a smaller UPS, a Smart Ups, will do the work a lot easier. So I agree. Something like an 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐞 or a chloride, you wouldn't even need much of those parts
because there's no population.
There's no more
owners out
there's
there.
No
anymore.
more.
Yes,
they've become. Right. But then all day to me, because when I came in here and I revamped, and a very high percentage of my stuff is parts. Yes, I'm very for that. We have those. We should have them, and we should keep providing them. Because I have customers requesting all types of parts within the UPS, and they're not going to look to get an entire UPS or swap out everything.
And and if you think about it, that's our strength. Because remember now, the OEM said after 10 years, this is obsolete. There are no more parts available. They're trying to make room for their new stuff, and they're throwing everything away. Mm-hmm. So here we are with legacy parts. It's kind of like in the auto world. If you have parts from, the muscle cars in the 60s, those things are worth a fortune these days because they're so scarce.
And that's where I come through, where we have boards, we have parts in the thousands of dollars. To answer your question, Kim, yes, we have on hand an illustrious and a very large inventory of parts, and a variety from breakers to transistors to IGBTs to fuses to boards. Yeah. I mean, the list is very long, and we are constantly working on cataloging it and having them available. So we do very much.
Bill Nye, the Russian spy, is chiming in. He said,
from Russia?
No. I don't think he's from... tell us, Bill.
He's a spy.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, give us a little bit more context here then, Bill. But the question that he asks is, and it's a good one, do you think that UPS units will eventually be obsolete? Well, let's go back to the fundamentals of what the function or purpose of a UPS is. It stands for uninterruptible power source. Now, you see that big giant data center behind us. By the way, I'm going to talk about that in a second, and then I'll get to the question. We're using new AI these days to render images, and it turns out that Midjourney isn't the only tool that you use for images these days. ChatGPT-4, which is a large language model, is actually now capable of rendering images because it's been paired with DALL-E. These are OpenAI tools or AI tools. So this is a ChatGPT-4 prompt that I inserted for a large data centers with acres of equipment, and that's what it came up with. Now, if you look too closely, the majority of this is fake. It's BS. The blinking lights, the plumbing things that really don't go anywhere. We had one thing that in one of the podcasts where there was a box, it was a custom box, and it plugged into itself, which of course made no sense. But that's what that image is. Now, the question, getting back to will UPSs eventually be obsolete? The function of a UPS is to keep the power running when the power goes out. And that can happen for a variety of reasons.
Correct.
You've got somebody hit a telephone pole in your neighborhood and knocked the power down. You had a lightning strike that was so severe that it knocked out a substation transformer. And in these kinds of data center applications like co-locations, Google, banking, downtime is extremely costly. So companies go to great lengths to have multiple layers of redundancy. And you guys touched on that in the last podcast.
Correct.
The function of a UPS is to give you a short-term ride-through, as they call it, from the batteries. And that could be 7 to 15 minutes. What happens then is, if you have a redundant system, you're going to have an engine generator sitting outside that's on standby, waiting to fire up, and an automatic transfer switch, which is going to actuate once the power drops out. So you have a transfer switch now that's beginning to record how long it's been without power. Mm-hmm. Your UPS is going to carry you through 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And then the automatic transfer switch sends information to the engine generator outside. Okay, I want you to start up that internal combustion engine, diesel engine, whatever it is. Get ready to switch power over. And then you have complete redundancy. Now you're at the mercy not of battery time, which could be finite, but of fuel. How much diesel fuel do you have?
I would like to answer that too. So for a certain time in the industry, as I was working, and COVID really hit hard, and pre-COVID, mid-COVID, and post-COVID, there was a difference. There was a big shift. Post-COVID, right now, a lot of small businesses to medium-sized businesses, more smaller, started closing their doors. And I was like, oh man, certain UPSs, they don't have anymore. But what they started doing was working from home. To Pete's point is they started going to co-locations. They started moving their business to where someone else can handle it, which is data centers. Data centers is so massive and so crucial and so pivotal that mid-sized businesses, hospitals, we've spoken about infrastructures many times with Claude in some of our episodes of it may shift at times UPS, but it will not go obsolete because of, pun intended, how critical the power is and how crucial it's needed for those structures. Even if it's not connected straight directly to a device, it's connected to the utility, it's connected to life-saving situations. Like you said, they can't lose downtime. In a hospital,
they got a guy on the operating room table.
Exactly.
Right? They can't lose lights and power and electricity.
Food that cannot spoil. So the UPS world and the UPS product will constantly shift and transition, but it'll be needed because of what it does. And in its own way, if you don't have a generator, it's a generator that generates a certain amount of power and time for what you need. So it's more of a mobile style generator. Sure. That's another way to look at the UPS. So I would say no, they would not go obsolete. We have a lot today, so, a lot of comments. So chemistry, would you like me to answer that one?
Sure, go for it.
Thank you, Elvis. How would one go about seeing if you have a part we are looking for? Ask me, reach out to me,
Elvis.
Email me at Ven, VEN, and then @gruber.com. But yeah, you can always reach out to us on what part you're looking for. How would one go about seeing what part we are looking for? You would reach out to me.
Actually, Dreammaker is taking us into my next topic here, so I'll do two things. I'll read his, and then I'll tell you the what's on my script here, and that's what my laptop is doing. He's asking, there's been a major shift to modular units. Many of the component UPSs are extinct. Correct. So what I've got here is from component UPSs, we migrated into scalable UPSs. We added more power modules and battery packs to match the size and runtime the customer needed. So instead of the component UPSs, which were pretty much locked to a certain size, 50 kVA, 100, 150, with modular UPSs, we could now scale that UPS to the customer's requirement, precisely the amount of power they needed, with the ability to scale even further.
Correct.
By selling them a larger frame that had the ability to scale to 500 if they needed 250 initially. As component UPSs began to decline and fewer installations and they were recycled, component UPSs have really taken off today.
They have.
Yeah. Do you even see any component UPSs anymore?
Yes, not as much.
Is anybody making them, I guess is what I'm asking.
Probably not as much. They still are, but the modular is just, that's where I see it. Even for Emerson, for APC, Eaton, Liebert, everyone's trying to get into it. There still are some components, like even the Eaton 93 PM, even though it doesn't have certain, it's like, some I see as both. You can change certain things out and certain things you can't. So I don't see them as much because modular has just become such like a
it's
wave.
taken over. Yeah,
It is taken over.
It's far more
Yes.
versatile. It the average business does not want to redo their electrical and change out a component
Correct.
UPS as they're growing.
Correct.
It's really nice to be able to put in an electrical infrastructure that will meet the growth demands, and then simply add live modules as you need to grow.
Or take away.
Yeah, or
There's
take
both
away. Good
sides.
point.
You can do one depending on your load, depending on your operations. You can add or take.
So as we continued to purchase used UPS equipment, you may ask, where are these coming from? Well, the word gets out quickly that we're buying used equipment. So that's one source. The second one is we do asset recovery. If there's a data center that is shutting down or they're relocating to a larger data center, we're the people that can come in and liquidate those assets for you.
Correct.
From access floor to your switch gear, all of the data type cabinets and the hardware in them, routers, switches, the critical power equipment, including the engine generator, and finally, the crack units, computer room AC units. Not the drugs, by the way. So that's our source of equipment for this refurbishing effort that we do. Got a bunch of questions here. Let's continue. We have a comment from Bill Nye, the Russian spy, and we asked, where are you? Because that name sounds pretty ominous and scary, right? He says, in an undisclosed location in the motherland.
I wouldn't expect nothing else from a Russian spy. So good for you. He's yeah.
Rhonda Haas says, yes, please talk about the backdrop. Okay. There is a new emerging job description because of AI. And actually, there are people now that are saying, if you want to get a career, this is probably the hottest career right now that's in front of us, and it's called prompt engineering. In my AI podcast Wednesday this week, they were talking about salaries that equal $100 an hour or $375,000 per year for prompt engineering.
Wow.
And these are people that have learned how to describe a particular concept, intended output from AI, whether it's an image, a poem, a script, or whatever it is, because the more accurate you are in your prompt, the better the result is.
Yeah.
I still struggle with it myself. I think this prompt behind me here was something like, give me acres of data center, brightly lit, highly detailed, showing conduit and access floor. Didn't get the access floor perfectly, and some of the plumbing is actually, kind of hokey as well. But again, this is a better result than I was getting with Midjourney. And if any of you are interested in getting into this, subscriptions, and these are subscription-based AI programs. Midjourney is like $20, $30 a month. ChatGPT-4 is maybe $20. And my God, if you're going to school and you need help writing, get yourself ChatGPT-4 because it will do an infinitely better job than you could ever do.
A few more. Dreammaker, got to shift with the market trends. I totally agree. You have to be adaptable. You have to know how to audible, pun intended, if you know what I mean, Dreammaker. You have to know how to move and cater to the market as it shifts and the trends that arise and the trends that are no longer around. The focus should be to reduce the probability of interruptions. That is very true. You want to reduce the probability. And then the 90... Okay, this Dreammaker guy knows what he's talking about because he's saying the 93 PM is a newer unit, a silicon is not. No one wants them. Therefore, inventorying those parts are a waste of time and money. Correct. So the silicon, we still have parts for them, but they're a lot older and no one really cares for them as much. But they're still to have, I would say, bare minimum, just, you never know the one-offs. But then you could still find them somewhere else. And then for the 93 PM, they are newer, and getting those would be nice, but it's going to take some time to get parts for brand newer equipment because they have the The 10 years we've talked about on caps and fans,
And it
the
has to be,
certain years on the boards, so those are great to eventually have, and we're bringing those into our inventory. But I agree, you want to stay in the world where it's also, if it's newer or older, is what's the most repetitive requests of parts that you see constantly being asked about. So those are the ones I would always keep my target, and then just keep a little few for, God forbid, a rainy day or a random one-off. But then I wouldn't stock the shelf with 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐸s or chlorides or even silicon, because I also look at it this, I do data in my head, and I do it on my own with my sheets. I look at what I sell the most, and I look at what I sell far in between. And silicon, twice in 7 years. So I look at that too. It's like, well, what? And me being more of a aggressive parts salesman, because I do sell a lot of parts, the legacy parts, more than probably anyone right now, we could say, or similar to a few here. I look at that too as like, it's far in between where I don't sell those anymore. So I wouldn't even care too much about them, because you can shift them. And I would even say, hey, why buy, let's just, for example, a silicone part for, let's say, $1,000 when you can buy a Smart Ups for $1,500 or that. So there's many ways you can pivot and transition. So I agree with Dreammaker that it also depends on the UPS, newer or older. And then you could take the next one, the Scheffler family.
Yeah, great question from the Scheffler family. Thank you for joining us. The question is, what type of classes or literature would you recommend to gain knowledge that is applicable to this industry, in addition to your educational YouTube videos, of course? All right, thanks for adding that. You know, our website is probably a great place to hang out and just peruse. We're continuously working on our social media visibility, and the website will continue to improve. But where I think you're going to see the most gains is in the YouTube channel. Now, not today, but the ultimate goal is to create tutorial videos on that YouTube channel that would advise people for things like this. Just had a power outage on a 93 PowerWare, and it is in bypass. How do I clear the bypass? I'm getting this particular alarm. How do I resolve that? Those are the types of tutorial videos, I think, that provide high quality content that are going to make our YouTube channel an important place to go and hang out and use as a repository of information.
Let me add to her question, until that comes up, what's another way on top of the YouTube videos, on top of the website? What are some other places where they can get the correct literature? And because someone that wanting to do that is very driven and motivated to learn the industry and to learn the UPS. And I have some things that I could add. I'll be honest, I've done Google. I've went and researched. If I want to learn something, I'm going to learn it by design, and I'm going to learn it in steps. Justin has said this, and it's very profound, but very simple. Start easy. If you want to learn UPS literature, we talk about APC, Liebert all the time. Look at the APC SmartUp brand, and go find those brands, and go find the manuals, and read on the manual of a SmartUps. Then go to the Liebert Infinity or the GXTs, which is a SmartUps. Go to the SmartUps only. So do one Liebert and one APC and one Eaton, and read literature on that. I still do that to this day. We have customers that ask us for a 338 𝐒𝐭𝐦𝐸 UPS from one of our account managers, and I was helping her out. And you know what I did? I went on Google. I went and found it's a 40-year-old UPS. Wow. And I found one large manual of 80 pages, and I started reading. I started reading on it so I can find out, and I did find exactly what I needed. But I had to go back. Same thing for the best power, because I have a customer that has one and we're servicing it. I went and read more on it. So I went online and I read and I educated myself. And that's one of my biggest advantages on going through, even on Gruber, and learning the industry standard literature on why I'm even more technical and know certain things, because I just went and started reading the user manuals, the brochures. APC has those on all their stuff. brochures, the guide, the walkthrough, the data specs. That's a very great resource, which we have those internally in our industry. For Gruber, we have those on our drives, and we can go, that's another place you can go read all of that, because all that literature is there. And if you know how to find it, you can find it quicker than going on the website. But I believe that's a very important one, is reading the manuals. My dad used to do that when he used to get the big Sony camcorders. Yeah. He was the only guy that read the camcorder. I was like, wow. What? I was like, what is this guy doing? But he read the literature. He read the manual. That there's still a lot of benefit in that.
And folks, brace yourself. With artificial intelligence beginning to infiltrate everything that we do, that type of information that we're talking about will actually very soon be available by conversation. Right now, you can talk to ChatGPT-4 by typing, by texting it, basically. And you can ask questions like this, and it will surprisingly come up with all kinds of information, because Bard, for example, now is linked to the internet. And it can extract the types of things that Elvis was talking about. Eventually, though, we're going to have the level of augmentation to AI that allows us to talk to it.
Correct.
Just like you do with Alexa. Exciting time to be alive. Those of you interested, by the way, in artificial intelligence, we're amateurs, but we have a weekly AI podcast at 10 o'clock Wednesday morning, where we bring the latest and greatest news about artificial intelligence and some training issues and the latest software that's available, and a lot of discussion from our audience. Great ideas come out of that, which brings me to the next question from Karen Macareno Perez. She says, what are the official social media accounts for Gruber Industries? Well, the Gruber Companies has currently 3 fully operational YouTube channels. One of them is Gruber Power Services, which is the podcast we're doing today. The up-and-coming one right now, and it's actually the fastest growing right now, which is amazing, is our Gruber Communications channel. So if you go to Gruber Communications on YouTube, you'll find a lot of short videos that describe our production process for cables, fiber optic cables, the machine shop making fiber computer room furniture, basically. And then finally, Gruber Motor Company, which is the most mature in social media. It was really the first one that taught us how to be successful with social media and combine that into a marketing and sales function. And just to give you an idea, Gruber Motor Company is rapidly growing, has more business than they can handle. They get leads every single day, and they have 0 salespeople. In the other 2 divisions, we have call centers full of account managers.
Don't challenge me. Salespeople, do not challenge me.
You guys are not going to be replaced. That's the next question that comes up. As we shift to AI, bringing in the business, people like Elvis become educators. They're going to get pre-qualified, solid leads, and the questions are going to be, I'm going to buy a UPS. I need some help configuring it, which is what he would much rather do than dialing for dollars, trying to get past the gatekeeper, trying to find a decision maker, only to find that they're happy with their vendor. Oh, by the way, we talked about that earlier. You said that part of your success is because you come along with the equation.
Yep.
Our most successful comm sales rep freely admits that when he has an objection that he runs into where the customer says, well, I have an existing vendor, we're happy with them, and we'd like to stay with them. What he says at that point is, look, maybe the products are similar, maybe they're even the same, but the critical difference is going to be working with us, you get me.
Yeah.
And this is the same guy that while he was single had a picture not of his family, but of himself on his desk.
Oh, he sounds pretty humble.
Yeah.
But another thing, I'd be very impressed with your AI talk. I don't, as up to date and as fascinating and groundbreaking as it is, if you can manufacture an AI that can deliver like a Claude or like a me, or the personalities of a Claude and a me, then maybe I'll tip my hat and I'll wave my surrender flag. But until then, I don't think you're going to make someone as specific as a Claude, as a me, or even as a you, Pete. Doesn't matter how much AI you put into it.
Have you heard that they have recreated John Lennon at this point?
No, you're telling me for the first time. And I don't even like it if it's not the real John Lennon.
And, well, that's the problem. With AI, you can't tell anymore.
Yeah, I can't.
They call them deep fakes.
Oh, yeah, the deep fakes. I've seen those.
Yeah, and it's getting so convincing.
Those are hilarious.
That these things are passing the Turing test. Now, the Turing test is, a test to see whether it's human or whether it's machine.
Yeah.
And for many decades, that was a no-brainer. You could immediately tell, well, that's a machine talk. That's like Alexa at home, right? These deep fakes are very convincing.
They are.
Have you guys heard of Johnny Cash singing Taylor Swift songs?
No.
Pretty awesome.
I don't want to talk about that. That's already annoying me. Like, really? Johnny Cash would not even dare.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously.
Dreammaker, old-fashioned education. I love that. And we have some old-fashioned stuff for you here in a moment regarding transistor technology. Instagram, TexasTrader_22, one of my favorite channels. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for jumping on in.
So, we've been talking about old technology, new technology, parts, recycling, our Go Green initiatives. This is a little deviation here, but what I wanted to show you was how quickly technology improves. What I'm holding here weighs, what would you say, about 5-10 pounds or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty heavy. This is a silicon-controlled rectifier. The two pieces of stainless steel metal on both sides are actually insulated in the center, and this is a digital switch. Essentially, by putting in a small signal into a gate, you actually close semiconductor contacts which pass voltage and current between these two plates. And it is a SCR, or silicon-controlled rectifier. Back in the day, we had what were called step-wave inverters. Without getting too technical, when you change DC and convert it to AC, you need a sine wave. And a sine wave looks like this. Goes up, and it comes back down, crosses zero, and then it goes negative for a while and comes back to positive. In order to create a sine wave from a DC system, or AC, you needed a number of these, and they literally were step wave rectifiers. So the first one would turn on, then it would turn off. The second one would turn on, turn off, and then it would repeat the process going negative again.
Okay.
That's how they created a sine wave. And then you needed a lot of capacitors, chokes to filter the steps because they were jagged. And anything that runs on AC likes a good, clean sine wave, especially an induction motor.
Yes.
Right.
For Dreammaker, just in case you're going to ask, that is not a hockey puck.
Right. It could be, though. Man, that would be a heck of a...
Knowing him, I'm going to save you that question. It's not a hockey puck.
Dreammaker just sent a message. I didn't put it up yet. It says it looks like a UFO.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I figured out. It's a UFO. Yeah, that's why I made a comment. It's not okay. So it's not a UFO and it's not a hockey puck. Me and Dreammaker, we sound like we're kind of the same guy sometimes.
Yeah.
I like that guy. He sounds pretty cool.
So the old way of doing this was, again, gate switching was vacuum tubes, but you could never get this much power. So this was actually a major improvement and an advancement in technology until they figured out a way to take transistors. Now, a transistor can do the same thing, except it's able to do the entire excursion from plus to minus and back up to plus again by putting a small signal in the center here, which is called the base, and then your current flows between the emitter and collector. All right? So transistors were typically smaller, and this is, by the way, a transistor out of a Tesla Roadster. They have over 70 of these in the power circuit, and they hook them in parallel to get the current they need. Well, in the mid-1980s, a Japanese company came along by the name of Triad. And, there are certain countries that just do a better job of engineering. Germany and Japan rank at the very top, I think. It's not going to come from Mexico or, some of the other, or Romania for that matter. Or is it Bulgaria?
At this point, I'm Romanian. I'm Romanian, I'm Bulgarian, and someone thought I was Brazilian.
Oh, really?
So I'm going to, all of the above.
Okay.
And none of those places would probably be the lead on this. So true.
So here comes Japan, and they developed a power transistor. It is called an insulated gate bipolar transistor, or IGBT for short. And by putting a small signal, a sine wave from an oscillator, nice and clean.
Mm-hmm.
It will then do the same thing on these heavy, high current outputs, emitter and collector, see the E and C. So now they were able to, instead of having step wave rectifiers, multiple of them to make a sine wave, and a lot of filtration, capacitors, chokes, they were able to do the same thing with a transistor. Now, the reason I brought this today is this technology quickly took over UPSs. And today, the UPSs all have IGBT transistors, as does the Tesla Roadster, whoops, where'd it go, or the other Tesla or the other EVs on the planet. Because in an EV, you're converting DC storage voltage, because you can't store AC, into three-phase AC.
Yep.
So that's a story on this IGBT. Kim Estrie. AI also created a Super Bowl show with Kurt Cobain and Tupac.
Yep. Yeah, Tupac.
So you know about
but I guess you can buy a 2-pack at the grocery store, and Tupac.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, we are at time too
All right.
for the show, but we still have a few questions we can get through.
Rhonda Haas. Giant size button battery.
That's
LOL.
what it looked like.
Right? Logan V. Hey, yo.
Hey, yo. And then Dreammaker, that's a did you know?
It is a did you know? Yeah. You should probably get into that because Jesse is
but Jesse's
moving us
already
along
Keep
here, isn't
schedule
he?
over here.
He's the time monitor. So I was going to give you, Jesse, can I just do one or two?
Yeah, go ahead. We got time. I just wanted to let you know where we were at.
Thanks, Father. He's the time monitor today, the time police. So the apex predator with the highest kill rate ever. What guess do you guys have? And it's interesting. It's actually one of my two top favorite animals, and it's one of my favorite. It's number 2. My favorite is not in this. It is not the one that but I knew this answer because it's one of my favorites. I've done so many research on it. What do you think the apex predator is in Africa, in the world?
And it's not a human being because there's
I was
humans
gonna say,
that also.
No,
does it
it's
have
an
to be
animal.
alive now too?
Yeah.
Can I say T-Rex?
No, it has to be alive. Correct.
Oh,
the
okay.
apex predator, that's like, and it's usually like in the savannas. I'm giving you guys some guesses in Africa, in those, and it's like an
We
animal
got
planet.
some guesses coming here. Let me put these up.
Go ahead, because it's my favorite, and I've known this, and it's my favorite pack animal. I gave another one.
A domestic cat.
Dreammaker, Rhonda said, well, yeah, probably apex predator kills all your plants. Dreammaker, the eagle. Good answer, but no. Grant, the lion, no, but that was one of them said it's not the lion, it's not the cheetah, which is my favorite, it's not the wolf. Logan V.
Great white shark.
Nope, it is a land animal. So, okay, it is my favorite animal, that and the cheetah. So it is the African wild dogs.
Really?
Have you ever seen
Really?
those?
Wow.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's my favorite. They're the best pack animals. And the way, even if you watch Animal Planet, the way they hunt, they're the best apex predator. And their kill rate is so high, it's 85%.
Wow.
While the peregrine falcon has 47%, and the lions only have 17 to 19% in kill rate. Rhonda Haas said rhino, but it is the African wild dog, and it's a spotted one. They're beautiful, but because they only hunt together. Lions hunt separately, hyenas can hunt separately, even though they can be packs, but the African wild dog, it's the number one. Cheetah, same thing. They're by themselves. Yeah. Wolves can be a lone wolf or a pack, but they do not ever go away. They're always together, pack animal.
There's probably a level of intelligence there too, because
Beyond.
I'll bet they don't pick anything substantially bigger than themselves to keep
or
that
a
kill
deer,
rate high.
Or deer where like they know it's 2 or 3 together will knock it out. But it's my favorite. I've every time I watch Animal Planet, I always tell my kids they're just so crafty and they're just so specific in their routine.
By the way, Grant, where have you been? Yeah, this is the first time we've seen you. Welcome.
We miss you.
Yeah,
Grant's
totally.
Grant's one of the biggest deals in this podcast for us. He's one of the biggest essence part of it. I mean, he's like the 3rd or 4th like ghost guest and a host. The host ghost.
So do I get to do an industry related did you know?
Yes, if you have one, we can do with that one, and then Jesse won't yell at us or beat us anymore or throw anything at me.
Right. All right. My did you know?
Uh-oh.
Did you know that APC, American Power Corporation, right,
Okay.
makes UPSs, right, in our business, was the first company to generate $1 billion in revenue by manufacturing and marketing UPS products.
1 billion.
1 billion.
I believe it. There's no one like them, in
And
my opinion.
this is a company that was a tiny, tiny underdog when Emerson, Liebert, Exide, all those big companies, even
Wow.
Chloride in Rochester, New York, were dominating the market. And in fact, there's a funny story about the original engineers at APC. They were so small and so underfunded that they used to take circuit boards home at night that needed to be baked in order to set something on the board to their homes and bake them overnight at low temps and then bring them to work the next day.
Ready to go.
And initially, they weren't making three-phase UPSs or large UPSs or even crack units, the computer may see units. They were making the small UPSs, smart ups.
Yep.
That's how they, that was their claim to fame.
What is the correct pronunciation of APC? American Power Company, or is it American Conversion?
Conversion, yeah.
Thank you. I was going to wait because I was going to say it's conversion,
Yep.
but I want to see, okay. So with the last few, Grant Mobile, love the orange, Elvis. Thank you. OSU colors nice. Yep. Chemistry. Go, Jesse. See?
Wait. I got
fans out
orange
there.
too. Did you see this? Wait.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Oh, look at this.
Nice.
There
With the
he
logo.
is. Yeah, Jesse's he's my boss today. And then Karen Macareno Perez says merch store. Merch.
You know what?
We keep getting that
Victor-
question. It's pretty
Victor, yeah.
Just showed me a shirt that he did on the Roadsters. And it has 4 pictures of like a graphic display Roadster. We've got to start getting some merchandise out
the
on our
GPS
YouTube
too.
channels.
Yeah, we'll start doing that for
We
GPS and
really
comm
need
too.
to start doing that because he's not the first. Karen's not the first person to ask about it.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining the show, everyone here. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Jesse, is it okay to wrap it up? Or are you giving
We are
us?
good to go.
All right, we
One
got
more
the
thing, actually. Grant says, love the orange, Pete.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Grant.
So yeah, Pete, thank you for showing up today, for taking the reins. It was a good one. Great news is next week, what we found out is we'll still be having another show on Black Friday. You never know what might happen there. Claude will be back, and the dynamic duo will make his first feature again in November. We've had some great guests. I do want to say thanks to Justin, to Lenny. I want to say thanks to Grant. He showed up a few weeks ago. Thank you, Pete, so much for
Thanks for
helping
inviting
out
me.
and
Yes.
having
Yep.
just coming in and just really opening up everything today. So I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you guys, and you guys have an awesome weekend. Go Gruber Power, GPS, all the way.
I'm going to drink my Chablis.
Yeah, there we go.